is Chris Wall with The Wall Network. Today's video will focus on making a link aggregation group with an HP V1910. This will be attached to an ESXi host in my lab for the purpose of passing along storage traffic. Getting started, we have a single host in maintenance mode so that we don't have any VM complications and to make sure that no virtual machines could possibly be running on this host. In front of you is a single DV switch with a pair of uplinks and a single VM kernel port, which is mapped on my NFS VLAN. Now to get started, we want to switch over to the networking view and ensure that we've set up the teaming on this guy correctly. So by default, the teaming will be set to virtual port ID. Now if we're going to make a link aggregation group, we have switched this to IP hash. Note that a little I button pops up, and if you click it, it tells you that IP hash should only be used if the uplinks are in Ether channel mode, which is link aggregation. So we've set that. From a vSphere perspective, that's pretty much the only config we have to do. Next, let's go into the management of the HP V1910. Now in my lab here, I've went ahead and wiped out all the aggregation groups so that you can see the creation from start to finish. From the networking section, we want to go to Link Aggregation, and then Create. The default aggregation ID of 1 is fine, and we want to make sure that the aggregation type is static, LACP disabled. That's because vSphere does not support dynamic link aggregation groups, which is LACP. So I'm going to select the ports that this host is using. I already know that's 5 and 6. And at the bottom it's telling you that that's going to create a 2-member link aggregation group in static mode. Click Apply, and now we have link aggregation ID number 1 created. If I go to Summary tab, we'll see that. Now note, when you first create the link aggregation group, it'll show 2 ports in standby, and none are selected. This means that the link aggregation group is not actually active at this time. I can confirm this by pulling up command prompt and trying to ping the interface on my VM kernel port, and it's not going to respond. That's because we need to set up the link aggregation group properly. Going into VLAN, we can make this change. So I'll get the port details first so you can see how it comes out of the box. Now notice ports 5 and 6 now show a 1 under both of them, meaning they're part of link aggregation group 1. And we have an aggregation group 1 as a port that wasn't there prior. If I select it, we'll see that the default configuration is a access port with a primary VLAN ID of 1. So this won't do for our purposes. We're going to need to set this as a trunk and pass along some VLANs. So I want to modify the port, select the aggregation group, change the link type to trunk, and apply that change. Now I'll need to go back into the port and set up some tagged VLANs. So I'm going to do my iSCSI and NFS VLANs and apply the changes. So now if I go into the port details, the aggregation group shows that it's a trunk type with 2 tagged VLANs for my iSCSI and NFS traffic. And if I go into command prompt, I should be able to ping that interface. There we go. Sometimes it can take a little bit for the ARP to reach where it's trying to get to, and for the link aggregation group to come up. Finally, if you go to the summary portion of the HP V1910, you'll see that there's some logs showing that the aggregation group ports have become active and that the aggregation link status is up and forwarding traffic. This will let you know that you've configured it properly and that both sides are correctly included in a link aggregation group static mode.